Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Again, we're going to go over AFWERX. AFWERX is one of the DoD's probably strongest kind of funding catalysts or funding arms with a great B2G commercialization aspect. And we'll get more into that as the presentation kind of goes along. So just to give you a lay of the land, and this isn't quite updated ever since Trump signed that stimulus check a few months ago for the pandemic. But you can see $162 billion was set aside for R&D funding just in the fiscal year 2020. Of that, between $30 and $60 million, $30 and $60 billion would have set aside for private industry. Those are companies just like yourselves. And the reason that interval is kind of so varied is because these are chronological funding events. So you can't just put a single number on it. And this just kind of shows you the value of non-dilutive funding. So whereas, dilutive funding, a lot of people are worried about giving up their IP rights. You're maintaining all your intellectual property with non-dilutive funding. No board members, no outside interference. It's completely non-dilutive in terms of equity. Whereas if you were working with an angel investor or, a venture capitalist, there might be some sort of conflict of interest. Here, it's really just the government's looking to match you to be a tier 1 client of yours. Another great thing about non-dilutive funding is the follow-on contracts are kind of baked in a lot of the programs, especially AFWERX. It's baked in to the AFWERX program, whereas if you're to go with a venture capitalist, it's more networking and then hopefully getting your commercialization or the commercial side of your business up and running through networking. Non-dilutive funding. Also, obviously, you're going to have a stable budget. It's very, defined before when you win the award. You know exactly what the prize amount is, what you're going to use that money towards. With dilutive funding, it can be a little less stable, and there's a little less definition around potentially getting, capital from a private investor. So this is actually a really cool recent study done by the Milken Institute, recent study done. So for every dollar invested in your company, federal R&D dollar, you can expect about $8.38 invested by the private market over an 8-year period. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, the government's basically gave you the seal of approval or the hallmark of quality, saying, you have really impactful, deep impactful technology. And 2, you've gone from pre-grant through prototype all the way to commercialization. And you have a commercially viable product. So with a lot of our clients, we've noticed where they were chasing down VCs before, now the VCs are kind of chasing them down. And these are just 6 out of over 60,000 companies that have gotten their start with government-backed funding. Symantec, Qualcomm, iRobot, these are a lot of large companies I'm sure you've all heard of. And so these are basically the 2 reasons the government will invest in your company. Okay, so first, I'm going to kind of touch on their need to find solutions to the actual agency challenges, and then I'll get into kind of their more altruistic motivation. So this flowchart really shows you more of solving their actual agency challenge. So they have an actual, they're seeking a solution. So they'll post an opportunity, which is basically an objective or a challenge they have. Or a technology they're looking for. And so they'll see what's out there. And when I see what's out there, I mean, hopefully companies like yours will apply through AFWERX. And hopefully, and so once, your application gets accepted and we win that, whether it's a phase 1 or direct to phase 2, and you'll know more about what that means when I touch on AFWERX in the second half of this presentation. They're going to make their investment. They're going to make sure you commit to the R&D that you propose. In your applications, see how you perform on your R&D, and their end goal here, and this is what I really want to stress, is they want to become an early adopter of your technology. Basically, the biggest business in the United States of America wants to be a customer of yours, and that really is the whole point of the AFWERX program. So seed money for private industry. So again, 2 motivations. You have the altruistic motivation. The U.S. government has an interest in maintaining the U.S.'s position as a leader in high tech and modernization, job growth, and then a lot of people didn't know this. There's a capitalistic motivation. So for every dollar the government invests in your company, even though it's a grant dollar, a lot of people don't realize that they are seeing about $2.30 on every dollar they invest in. And so this shows you kind of the structure of the typical SBIR. So an SBIR is Small Business Innovation Research Program. And so phase one is the proof of concept stage, which you dictate. So you never really want to oversell it because it's a milestone that you have to reach. That phase is a $50,000 to $256,000 amount, depending on the agency that we're applying under. Phase two for the typical SBIR is $750,000 to $1.6 million, and that's the prototype stage. And so again, the government will give timelines for these stages. So for phase one, it's typically 3 to 6 months. I know with the NSF, it's 6 to 12 months. Phase two is usually a 24 to 27 month phase. And again, you can accomplish those in quicker amounts of time. Let's say if you have an off-the-shelf commercial-ready product, you can usually get the POC much quicker. You can usually get the prototype much quicker. And then you have phase 2B, phase 3, which is commercialization assistance. So for example, we had a client recently that was able to raise, I think it was $6 million with the Air Force, and they internally, and they were able to match them another $6 million. We had another client that raised internally $3 million with the NSF, and we're matched $3 million with the NSF. So it's amazing that the government even has that as an offering. So this kind of just shows you the distribution of the actual funding dollars. So I know only 3.2% of the actual funding dollars are for SBIRs, but I want you to understand that SBIRs have many, many funding opportunities within them. So this isn't proportionate to the number of funding opportunities. This graph is proportionate to the number of actual funding dollars. So the SBIRs are about 3% of the actual funding dollars, whereas broad agency announcements are a much larger percent, and that's just by nature of the actual application and the challenges they're trying to solve. So broad agency announcements, again, they're 40 to 50 page applications where you propose your R&D. It could be in a 40 to potentially 60 page application where you'll propose your R&D, you'll have a deadline, and you'll have a milestone with an ask, basically. How do we know how much to ask for? Every agency will have an award ceiling for each solicitation. So let's just give a hypothetical example. Say NASA has a $10 million broad agency announcement with a $10 million award ceiling, and your technology might be great for NASA. So we'll go ahead and we'll ask for maybe a lower amount, hopefully $6-7 million, and it could be a 2 to 3 year grant, depending on how much time you need for the R&D funding. And that's kind of our secret sauce. We're going to be working together with you to get that ultimately to get that funding, to get that success. So broad agency announcements are they're one of our favorite funding opportunities to go after. Our biggest success story is actually a $65 million BAA, broad agency announcement. So what can you legally use this money towards? And I'm kind of going through this part quicker than the second part because I really want to.
Yeah, Ari, can I jump in real quick? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so if we can go back to that pie chart, I just kind of want to give a little bit of context just to kind of focus what we'll be talking about a little bit later in the call. So here, this pie chart, what you're seeing in the red is a SIBER, okay, an SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research. Okay, so that's only available to small businesses. And we're going to talk a little bit about the topics that were just published within this mechanism, this SBIR mechanism. We'll talk about that towards the end of this presentation. And then if you go to the next slide, Ari, what he was just discussing is that whole entire blue section. So that blue section over there is what we call broad agency announcements. So that's really open to corporations, big businesses, industry, I mean, basically the whole lot. And so that's the information that you guys just received now. And then when we start applying for our clients, we really try to diversify our applications. Of course, if you're a small business, we'll be very interested in applying for SIBERs, for Small Business Innovation Research opportunities, which was that small red piece of the pie, very extremely promising, even though it's a very small piece of the pie. This is actually usually what we find. Most businesses are only really exposed to SBIRs and they don't actually know about this deep pool of BAA opportunities. So we really do our best to also apply to those BAAs because there is a lot of money there. There are a ton of opportunities. The scope of technology is so broad and it's extremely promising, especially in the long run. So we do our job to also get you guys exposed to that. And then so later on in this presentation, we'll take a deeper dive into SBIRs and the topics that were just recently published for the DoD. So I just wanted to make sure the differentiation was very clear between the two of those. So that's it. I'm done.
No, Natalie, thank you so much. That was very helpful. And yeah, we're going to get into AFWERX. So DoD is going to be for another day, but we're going to get into AFWERX in the second half of this. We're not going to touch so much on DoD 20.3, but let's keep it going. And I don't want to skip over this slide. It's relatively important. So legally, these are the things that you can use the money for, that we do win the R&D funding for. So salaries. So if you're the CEO and you're involved in R&D, you can pay your salary. Obviously, subcontractors, instruments, materials, facilities, and administrative costs. A lot of companies, that might be in earlier stages of their development, they don't really have facilities or administrative costs. Well, this money will be great to help you going with that. Outside advisors, and then what the government will do, they'll set aside 7 to 10% as profit, which is amazing that they'll even do that. So these are some more of the funding catalysts with a B2G endgame. So I mentioned AFWERX. You can see here there's also the DHS Silicon Valley Innovation Program with the DHS SVIP, which has a great opportunity right now for any companies that are listening that have a COVID-centric use case. AFWERX, which we're going to talk about today, and then X-Tech Search is more of an Army-focused funding catalyst, but it also has a commercialization aspect. You have the Defense Innovation Unit, and also, again, the Army Applications Lab, more Army-focused. Okay, so, and Natalie, anytime you feel like you want to jump in, please feel free. Natalie's actually a senior consultant with our professional department. So what she has to say holds more credence than anything I'll have to say on this webinar. So Natalie, please feel free to jump in on this part too. So AFWERX in a nutshell, it's basically a community, it is a community of Air Force innovators who strive to connect airmen to solutions across the force. And basically their end goal is really to solve problems by connecting the Air Force to kind of, smaller, more streamlined, startup facing, more agile, faster moving companies. So maybe getting away from like the Boeings and the Raytheons, and companies that will help them solve their challenges a little bit quicker. And so again, I want to stress it's an open topic forum. So there are some focus areas or guiding lights, just so they can say, okay, we have customers available for these focus areas. I'm not sure if they were posted for this last round. Hopefully they will be. But outside of those focus areas, they are literally willing to listen to any kind of core tech. So it's a completely open topic forum. And here, small bet, big bet. So the great thing about this is, even though phase one might be a smaller price of $50,000 to help you procure that memorandum of understanding, which I'm going to touch on in just a second, you're still getting a big prize at the end, potential tier one client with the AFWERX, through the Air Force. So we've had clients where they've had their kind of focus on fashion, and they've applied through AFWERX, and now the DoD, provides for about 50% of their yearly revenue stream. So the Air Force or the DoD, I say a lot of times, it's like a country. There's almost nothing they don't need. Okay, so these are some key success factors that AFWERX is looking for. So they definitely want innovation. So, not a layer of technology on top of an existing layer of technology, something that's new, proprietary. It should have a military need. So when I say military need, it could literally mean feeding the soldiers on an Army base, or logistics on an Army base, or on a Navy base. So it does have to fulfill a military need, as well as it should have a dual use. So it should also have a commercial use case. And I'll explain why in a second. A strong team is very important. When I say strong team, individuals with letters after their name is always a good thing. Individuals on the team that have started and sold companies, that's always a great thing to have. Now, commercial success, again, let's go back to make sure you have a commercial use case. AFWERX is interested in funding companies that will be able to succeed without the DoD being their client. They don't want you to rely on them as their only client. They want to make sure that you have some presence in the commercial market. So that might mean you have a contract in your pipeline with a potential partner that you're going to integrate with. in a year. That's considered traction. So some traction is what AFWERX wants to find, at least some traction. And I'm sure Natalie might have more to expand on that in the questions and answers section. So it's a 3-phase project. So again, phase 1 is customer exploration, where you literally pitch. Phase 2 is piloting, testing, proof of concept. And so again, or you could say prototype, but basically they just want to make sure whatever the core tech is that it works for their use. And then phase 3 ultimately is commercialization and expansion. So phase 3 is once you get closer to actually having that final contract signed with the government stakeholder. Okay, so here's some key information. The standard phase 1 award is $50,000. Now that doesn't move the needle for us, and it doesn't move the needle for most companies. It's not a small amount of money, but just so you know, it is a 2-month duration, and that money is meant for you to go out there and secure the MOU. So pay for your flights, your hotels, whatever it is you might need. You're marketing yourselves, whatever it is you may need to get that MOU signed and strengthened. And then you have phase 2 and direct to phase 2. So the phase 2 and direct to phase 2 awards here are both $750,000. And the government will give you 12 months. And so I see here, so the award may include cost sharing or matching funds. I know last quarter it did. I'm not 100% sure about this quarter. They're kind of releasing information as it comes. Hopefully they do. And if that's the case, they could potentially cost match. So we're talking about up to 1.5 million. And their goal in phase 2 and the directed phase 2 is to make sure that the technology works. In other words, that your offering is commercially viable for the use case. Okay, so these are basically the 3 different tracks of AFWERX. So you have the phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, which I just went over basically. And then you have, So you should always remember to get to phase 2, an MOU is required. So I should have put a little marker in here that says you need an MOU to get to phase 2. An MOU is basically just a memorandum of understanding for those of us on here that don't already know, or you could say a letter of intent from Air Force stakeholder and some other DoD stakeholders that say once your offering is commercially viable for them, they will be a client of yours. So that is always required for phase 2. But that is the only phase that it is required for. So again, phase 1, $50,000 award, go ahead, procure the MOU. Phase 2, you go ahead and make sure that your offering is viable. And then here you have phase 1, and you can go to direct to phase 3. So here they don't even need to see that it's viable. In a lot of cases, you might already have, your product might already be off the shelf ready for their use case, and you can go direct to phase 3. And then you also have phase 2 to phase 3. So some companies might not need that $50,000 to go out and procure an MOU, and they're ready for that $750,000 to get them to really get closer to that contract with the government. And see, so these are just some focus areas. These are from last quarter. We're assuming they're mirrored from last quarter. We don't know quite yet. They haven't released them, but just to go over them real quick, for those that are hard of seeing like myself, 5G, AI, ML, autonomy, biotech, cybersecurity, directed energy, hypersonics, microelectronics, network command, control, and communications, nuclear, quantum science, space, general warfighting requirements. Okay, and so I just wanted to stress again, I know I've said this like 3 times already, but when AFWERX says open topic, they really do mean open topic. There's nothing that they don't want to hear about, and if they don't want to hear about it, you just won't get an acceptance letter for the phase 1. But basically, every kind of technology you can think of, they want to hear about it. And so these are important dates. So the pre-release was today, so we can officially, we should know what the focus areas are, or the guiding lights. I don't know if they have, Natalie, do you know if they've been released yet? We haven't seen them from our side.
Yeah, so the focus areas haven't been released, but like you said, they're usually the same.
Okay.
And I mean, they've added, recently they added a COVID-19 focus area. So anything that could help out.
That is awesome. Okay, great. So there you go. So it officially opens on the 23rd. That means we can start submitting on the 23rd. And the deadline for applications is on the 22nd. And so for our internal deadlines, Eagle Point Funding, we have a early bird special, I guess you could say. If you were to sign with us by the 14th, if we start before the September 14th, then we'll go ahead and incentivize our agreement, potentially by adding a month or two to our contract. And then there's the last chance deadline. So basically, we won't take any clients past the 30th of September, just so we don't risk, obviously, the quality of our other clients' submissions. So these are just a couple of snippets from some great AFWERX articles I found. So the one on the left, it's really just kind of going into depth about why they're focusing on these more streamlined companies. These are more, sorry, this is AFWERX pitch day events. So I haven't mentioned pitch days. Okay, pitch days are great. So it's literally pitching and getting funded in the same day. It's that simple. And so how it works, you get invited for a pitch. You pitch to an audience of Air Force stakeholders. These are people that might have a use for your technology. And on the same day, you're going to get an answer, and it's a one-page contract. I know 2 years ago they had like $150,000 awards. I think today it's a little bit lower. I think it's like a $50,000 award for some pitch days. For some, it's more. So they have phase 1, and there are direct to phase 2, which are higher amounts in the AFWERX pitch days. And so the topics that kind of stood out: weapons. There's a weapons pitch day, Space and Missile Systems Center pitch day, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center Rapid Sustainment Office, they have a pitch day. Simulator Day, 2020 projects for lightweight or modular simulators, and then you have Digital Engineering pitch day. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanna make sure that if you guys have questions, just go ahead and type them in the Q&A, and I'll get to them at the end. And also, these are just the pitch days that were released. This DoD SBIR was released late last night, so there may be more coming up over the course of the week.
Right. And so, so I did mention, now there's 77 people on. So when we're about 25 attendees deep, please, if you have any questions throughout this participation, there is a Q&A section. And Natalie she's a senior consultant over here at Eagle Point Funding, and she'd love to answer your questions. So please leave any questions that you would have in that section. Let's get back to the presentation. I think we're almost wrapping up here. All right. So 3 major criteria to win: federal funding in general. You want to have some revolutionary technology. Already went over this. A strong R&D team. Obviously, there has to be a commercial use case for your technology. 5 keys to winning federal grants. Just like you wouldn't go to one VC and expect to get funded. Same thing with grants. You wouldn't go after one potential funding opportunity and expect to see success. So we help you find multiple funding opportunities. We're an organization that knows the system. We've been within this space for over 20 years. We built a clear case for you, and it really is a story of your technology. Anyone could put together, a really tech-intensive document and put it in front of someone and ask for money. But it's one thing to really put a creative story around that technology and have the reviewer say, hey, you know what? I can see the Air Force or the Army or the DoD having a use for this specific technology because it was told in such a compelling manner. And that's really part of what we do. So it's an art. And so we do engage in a multi-submission strategy. So I think that's important to note. So over the 9 months that we're engaged with our clients, we do try for 5 to 10 submissions. Of course, these aren't any submissions, just any submissions. These are submissions that obviously align with your core tech, and that you have to have the resources to come into the R&D. Basically, they're submissions that have to be within your strategic vision or strategic goals. So a little bit more about the FreeMind Group. So Eagle Point Funding, we are a division of the FreeMind Group. the Freemind Group, it says a world leader here. We are the world leader in accessing non-dilutive funding. We've been in business for over 20 years. Won over $1.6 billion for over 600 active clients. These are active. So when I say active clients, I'm talking about clients that are signing on an annual basis with us. So obviously we continuously win for them, and we've become an integral part of the revenue stream. And obviously we specialize in R&D grants and contracts. We have many in-house professionals, analysts, writers, project managers, great people, talented people such as Natalie, who's on this call, who's going to go ahead and answer some questions in just a second. So we basically, Eagle Point Funding was incepted about 3 years ago, and we focus on pretty much the whole gamut of technology outside of the life sciences. And so this is kind of what to expect in terms of workflow, working with us, just as brief as I could possibly give it to you. 24 to 72 hours after signing, we have a kickoff call where myself or one of our directors of business dev is going to introduce you to a project manager or senior consultant. And then that's going to kind of set the stage for the remainder of the engagement. On the first submission, we will say here, we might need up to 40 to 60 hours of your time to onboard us, because obviously you know your technology better than we do. Again,
yeah, and if I can jump in there also,
yeah.
Sorry, I have to just jump in here. So that's the typical statistic, right? But if you guys, if we wait on this and we're much closer to the deadline, then the work on your end would drastically increase. So the more time you give us to get to learn your technology and to really understand how we're going to be approaching this opportunity, then the more we can do for you guys, obviously. But the later it is, of course, the more stress it will be for all of us.
Great point.
So better sooner.
Great point. Another thing is, if you're a previous SBIR winner, then that time could be cut, potentially in half. Just keep that in the back of your mind. So 10 hours or less for every submission after the first one. Again, that can vary depending on what submission we're going after, but we like to say we do between 80 to 90% of the work for once we're completely onboarded on a given technology. And again, 5 to 10 submissions over our 9 months long engagement. You already saw there's an early bird deal. I can get more into it if anyone wants to connect with me, directly, and I can tell them more about AFWERX and working with Eagle Point. There is my email address, and I think this would be a good point for Natalie to kind of take over and answer any questions and correct me anywhere that I was wrong, Natalie, please.
Yeah, so just before I start with that, can you go to the last slide?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so also with the 5 to 10 submissions over the 9 month long engagement, this is also highly, it's highly dependent on the client. So, the more responsive our clients are, the more, we're able to collaborate together. That really, really changes the pace. We have clients that were able to submit a substantial amount of applications just because how responsive they are to some of our emails. So just keep that in mind. That really changes the game for us. So just that being said, I'll move forward. So just to kind of clarify, so I'm on the professional department team. So if you guys were to work with us, you'd be working with someone on my team or with myself. And we would be consulting you guys throughout the entire process of applying for federal grants and contracts. So I'll start with, before I start with the questions, I'll just kind of give a little bit of background of what we're talking about. So we're talking about AFWERX. AFWERX is an extremely exciting opportunity, especially now because they've really spearheaded a lot of the efforts for the Air Force recently, and we're seeing extremely promising results with them. And so yesterday, I think it was yesterday evening, the DoD, the Department of Defense SBIR SIBER was published. And there are a lot of very promising AFWERX topics on there. So we call AFWERX topics, we call them special topics, because they're much they respond to us much faster, and they're also much more flexible. They're much more open. If we don't find a topic that's exactly fitting for your technology, then AFWERX allows us to apply for an open topic. And that's, I think, what I'm going to discuss more so today. And so actually, what's really exciting about this specific DoD opportunity is, just like Ari said, we have usually what we would do is we would apply for a phase 1 opportunity. And then if we receive that phase 1 award and we reach our milestones, then we'd be able to apply to a phase 2, our chances would be pretty high of getting that phase 2, of course, if we reach the milestones that we set out for ourselves in phase 1. And then hopefully we'd move towards a phase 3, which means that, you know, the agency would help us commercialize our product, our solution, and hopefully actually get into the arms of the Department of Defense. So that's kind of just the general idea of how SIBERs work, how SBIRs work. And so now what we're seeing with AFWERX is it's not just, you know, the topics that they're looking for, they're also looking for open topics that have a dual purpose, right? So also a defense need and also a commercial need. And of course, they're really looking for something that have a clear Air Force stakeholder need, so something that would be highly attractive to the airmen. And so what we're seeing now is A, we have that phase 1 open topic, and B, we also have what we call a direct to phase 2. So typically with an AFWERX open topic, we would be, you know, applying for something that would be anywhere from 50K to, you know, maybe 150K for an open topic. And then we would hopefully move forward to a phase 2. But now what we're seeing, which is very new, by the way, we just saw this in the last cycle, and I'm, you guys cannot understand how much I was bouncing off the walls to see that they're also offering it this cycle, because it's very new that they're offering a direct to phase 2 open topic, which means we can skip that whole POC, we can skip that whole 50 to 150K, that whole 3 to 4 month project, and we can just jump directly to a phase 2. And the way that we do that is by securing an MOU. What Ari meant when he said MOU was a memorandum, okay? That a memorandum is a document that we have templates for, that we have an empowered Air Force stakeholder sign that says, hey, we really need this product, we really need this solution, this is perfect for our airmen, and we want to organize a pilot within our unit, within our base, to really see how, you know, we can integrate this technology into our base. And you know, just by them signing that MOU, the chances of us actually seeing some kind of return on that is very high. So that's just kind of the gist of what we're going to be discussing today. And so the phase 1 is designed to actually find that stakeholder, and that's why they pay us that 50K or so to find that stakeholder. But if we're able to do that without that phase 1, we can do that just on our own, which is what we try to do with our clients. Then we can just jump directly to the phase 2. We can get that MOU signed, and then we can apply to the phase 2. So I hope that that was clear. And now we'll go ahead and just respond to some of these questions so that everyone has that context. So first question, can you have any international partners such as India? So SIBERs are highly, you know, it's very strict. So for SBIRs, it must be, all the work done for SBIRs must be done in the United States of America. And so the answer to that question would be no. And, you know, we have to be a little bit strict on that for SIBERs. Otherwise, you know, we can win and then we'll be disqualified, and that's just a bummer for everybody. So we have a question here about digital engineering pitch day. So this is actually a bit different from the AFWERX open topics, but pitch day is also an extremely exciting opportunity. It's also very new. I've been working at Eagle Point for a couple years now. And so I've really seen the evolution of AFWERX and how it's been kind of implementing its different projects and programs within the Air Force. And pitch day is one of the most exciting opportunities that they came up with. So essentially what happens with pitch day, you know, we apply to be invited to pitch day. If we're invited, then we show up and we pitch our topic, we pitch our product and how we think it matches their needs. And actually what we saw in the last pitch day was something that was literally never before seen. There were 58 companies that were invited to pitch, and 51 out of the 58 were actually funded. And it was literally same day contracting. So usually the contracting with the government is like a couple, you know, the contract's very long and, you know, all the bureaucratic things. But with pitch day, it was a 1-page contract and the money was literally forwarded to the client on the spot at the event. So for digital engineering pitch day, I think that was Matt that asked that question. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of background here. So they're looking for digital twin technologies, big data architecture, digital engineering technologies. That's the gist of it. And if you just want more details, you can go ahead and message Ari, and I'm sure he can send you that topic in a PDF so you can get the information that you need. Rick asked the question, do you assist with MOU or is that done on our own? So okay, not only are we grant writers, we do a really, really great job at turning your technology into enticing pieces of art when we apply. But, you know, we always have this mutual interest in mind. So we want to win just as much as you guys want to win. And so we absolutely, if we can help in any way, shape, or form get that MOU, then we absolutely will. We have our ways of doing that. If that, you know, I really like to ping my clients from the beginning and just kind of get them to do some outreach on LinkedIn and kind of connect with anybody that they know within the Air Force. And it's really, you know, we're very active in that approach because MOUs really, I tell my clients all the time, it's the golden ticket. Okay, that's really the way in. So absolutely, it's of mutual interest of both of ours to make sure that you know exactly how to secure that MOU. So we would assist in any way possible, Rick. So Stefan, do we have stats on success rates for phase 1 and phase 2? Stefan, I'm sure that we have stats. I think Ari could probably give you the correct stats. I think it's 3 out of 4 clients or something like that. Just to kind of give you some context as someone who's in the professional department, we have great success rates for both phase 1 and phase 2. I myself have won several phase 2s for my clients. When I say phase 2, I mean direct to phase 2. That's kind of like, that's my favorite. Just saves work for all of us and just gets us straight to business with the Air Force. So it's very, very exciting opportunities, and I like to go straight for that. But everyone has their own strategy. But we do have very high success rates for both phase 1 and direct to phase 2. So AJ, the question that you asked about pitch days being virtual or in person. So I mean, this you know, we'll have to probably just adapt to the environment. Typically, they're actually in person. They only let you know the place and the date and the time a couple weeks before. I think it's about 2 weeks before. Last time it was in New York and Manhattan. I'm sure that this time it might be somewhere different. And I know that so far all of the events,
probably on Zoom.
Yeah, so far all of the events that were supposed to be in person are now taking place virtually, which is actually extremely exciting. Because that way we're all really able to expose ourselves to each other's technology, and it's very interesting the way that they've been handling everything. So everything is still very alive and very on, but so far it's been happening virtually. So we'll just have to be adaptive to that situation. Okay, so Tina, the typical agreement, what does the typical agreement look like? So it's very highly dependent on what we're applying for. So if we're applying for a typical topic, then we're looking at an entirely different contract. If we're applying for an Air Force pitch day, it's a one-page contract. And of course, if it's with AFWERX, it's going to be something entirely different. So this is something that we specialize in, something that we assist our clients in. And we kind of just, you know, once we, for example, if we were to secure a phase 1 for you guys, then of course we'd want to make sure we're doing all the contracting correctly so that we can make sure that we'll be eligible for that phase 2. So always look at SBIRs at SIBERs as phased funding. It's always just a gateway. It's a stepping stone to something bigger. And so we like to be we like to stick with our clients throughout that process so that it's a smooth ride, and so that we can make sure that we put all this effort in, and just when we're about to hit that 1 million or that 2 million, we want to make sure that transition is smooth. So that's something that we'll have to see, you know, once we're accepted for an award. Okay, so I have a question here. Okay, a lot of the questions here are just questions about how does the contract with us look like, what are our fees. I don't know the answers to these. You guys could talk to Ari about this later. I'm sure he'll be happy to discuss with you. Direct to phase 2 MOU is the MOU from the government, stakeholder, industry. So Joe, the MOU is with someone, an empowered Air Force stakeholder. So it would be something that we would draft out with that stakeholder once we identify him, and once they express interest in our product. You know, there's an art to doing this. There's a very specific skill to doing this. Just something that I can just say, you know, out loud is I like to consult with my clients on how we're going to approach them via LinkedIn, but there are also so many different avenues on how we can find that stakeholder. with my clients. Together with my clients, I draft brochures and one-pagers and articles, and we post that on LinkedIn. And we really do active outreach in that sense, and that's kind of usually how we're able to gain some traction there. And then, you know, we have we schedule phone calls with potential Air Force stakeholders that we found in one way or another, and I'm always on the call with my clients, and we're really able to discuss together and really negotiate what type of you know, project would be relevant if we were really going to do that pilot in the phase 2. So that MOU really clearly outlines and defines what the project is going to look like, what the milestones are, what the acceptance criteria are, and that's something that we draft together with our Air Force stakeholder. And then hopefully at the end they sign that, and then we put that into our application. So, okay. There's a lot of questions for Ari. Phase 2 with
Yeah, Natalie, why don't you just see if there's anything left that's specifically for you, and then I can just take over from there.
Yeah, so I have a question here. So can we apply for multiple phase 1s and 2s, or is that frowned upon? We can apply for multiple topics. It's really agency specific, so we'll have to research the solicitation. You know, they're very long. The solicitation sometimes could be a couple hundred pages, so it's really easy to make a mistake there, but that's part of our job. We read this stuff while we sleep. So yeah, so it's very important to make sure that you really understand the solicitation, you read it thoroughly, so that you don't get disqualified for something like that, where good intentions are involved. So Stefan, you just really would have to do your homework, or you can consult with us and we'd be glad to guide you. But sometimes, yeah, sometimes we can apply for more than one topic within different agencies. Okay, let me just scroll through here. Gerald, you're asking, does AFWERX no longer provide the required MOU document? So the MOU document is required for a direct to phase 2. Olga I think you meant MOU. Is the MOU needed for all SBIR phase 2 proposals? It's only necessary for a direct to phase 2. So if you want to skip that POC, if you want to skip that phase 1 and go to a direct to phase 2, then you would absolutely need an MOU. But if you were awarded a phase 1, then you can apply for phase 2 directly. You don't need an MOU if you have already been awarded a phase 1. It just kind of lengthens the process a bit. Olga, as I mentioned several times, are you helping to secure the MOU? Yes, absolutely. We do our best to make that happen. And I think that I answered the majority of the questions here. And yeah, I guess just to kind of make life easier for me and my team, I'm just gonna kind of jump in here if I can. You guys, time is really of the essence. Okay, so these things take a lot of time. You can just imagine on your own. The Air Force is extremely busy these days, especially now that the DoD just released their topics. So we really want to jump on the train as soon as we can, and we want to start talking to them. We want to really start actively reaching out to them. We want to understand what their problem is, how the Air Force you know, could see our technology being implemented on their bases with their airmen. And we want to learn as much as we can so that we provide something extremely fitting that also fits in our company's trajectory and R&D plan. So, you know, time is of the essence. The sooner that we understand how we can make that fit, the better the MOU will come out, or the more relevant of a topic we'll find for you guys. So always keep that in mind. And if you guys have any further questions, you can reach out to Ari, and I'm sure he'll be happy to assist.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it. I have 15 minutes to stay on with you guys. We still have like 63 people on, which I think is amazing. So yeah, Natalie, if you want to log off, I'll go ahead and I'll try my best to answer whatever I can that's left. All right. So any questions regarding our agreement, or, you know, our business model, or how that looks like? I have no problem answering that question. Let me just go back to my very last slide. You'll see my email address right over here. Feel free to contact me, and we can go over that together. Hold on, let me make it larger for you. There we go. Of course, there's a fee for this, so I would love to, you know, I have no problem outlining that, hopefully on a conversation. So if you guys just email me, we can schedule a call and go over that. Let's see, what else do we have? Someone asked me, why do previous SBIR winners require less time. Oh, okay. So Matt, I think you might have misunderstood me a little bit, or I might have miscommunicated a little bit. So what I was saying is, former SBIR winners, if we're applying for that same technology, they tend to have materials that could be redundant for upcoming solicitations. Okay, Matt? So, for example, if you were to apply for an SBIR under NASA that's relevant for AFWERX, but you lost the NASA Phase 1 SBIR, but it's also relevant for the United States Air Force Phase 1, then maybe there's parts of the tech content that could be redundant for the actual onboarding of the technology. So when I say require less time, I'm talking about require less time in terms of onboarding our team for your technology. I hope that answered your question, Matt. Ajay, how would you work for the ITAR? So ITAR, we don't touch any ITAR solicitations, AJ. The reason that we don't touch ITAR is in your interest. So basically, you don't want to deal with a company that's foreign, we're a foreign-based company, even though we're Delaware C Corp. Ultimately, we are based in Israel, so we do not touch ITAR related proposals for your own interest. You're not supposed to be consulting with a foreign country on ITAR regulated solicitations. But that doesn't mean that there aren't many solicitations within the DoD that aren't ITAR regulated. Huge majority of them, I would say most of them aren't. The DoD's pretty much, in terms of agencies, I would say are forte. So where is your company based? I just answered that, Rick. We're based in Israel. So our professional department is based in Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where we have our senior consultants, our project managers, contract attorneys, polytechnic PhDs, and then our biz dev team is based out here in Jerusalem. We were making it out to the States 4 to 5 times a year, sometimes more, but ever since the recent situation, it hasn't been as possible. So again, someone asked me about success rate. Stephen, I don't really like to get too much into success rate because it's so relative to the technology. So, I don't want to put anyone's technology down here. So I'm not going to really get too deep into it. If this is a service you think you'd be interested, get in touch with me, Stephen, and I'll have a hard answer for you on that. I don't want to throw it out there because it could really throw a lot of people off. It's high though. Let's just put it that way. I don't want people to think that I'm hiding it because it's not an amazing success rate. It's the best success rate out of all grant consultancies in the world. So our fees, again, I said I would mention that in a private email. If you'd like to reach out to me directly. Esteve Joe, direct to phase 2 MOU. Is the MOU from the government stakeholder or the industry? Great question. So it's actually from the government stakeholder. So it has to be an Air Force stakeholder and then another DoD stakeholder, another person with an Army base. So let's say you're an IoT company that has use cases for any kind of premises. So you would have the person that would sign the MOU would be the majors or generals or commanders, the guy signing the bill at that Army base. Not necessarily the integrator or the contractor. So what is standard procedure if I am being weirdly approached by leaders from other countries to talk tech? What is the standard procedure of being weirdly approached by leaders from other countries to talk tech? Listen, Tate Vika, that's a funny question. So I personally am from a foreign country. Now I'm an American. I'm a dual citizen. I'm a citizen of Israel and the United States. So, when it comes to talking about tech, there's usually no issue with the person on the other line. If you're asking for my advice, I would say, be careful about how much you talk to them about. Do your due diligence on the company. A company like ours, who's been around for 20 years, who's been applying before Eagle Point funding was incepted, applying exclusively under the DoD and the NIH for over 20 years now, I would say that's a safe foreign company to talk to about tech. Other countries, again, it's all about doing your due diligence and making sure they're kosher, as we would say here in Israel. Norman, again, we'll talk about that. Please shoot me an email. and we'll set up a call, or we'll just have a back-to-back via email. Steven asked me how are contracts. Yeah, so there is an upfront. Let's just put it this way: there's an upfront fee and a success fee. Okay. Let's see. Have phase 2 with AFL CMSC sponsors. Could you do another direct to phase 2? Well, that's a very specific question. Maybe Natalie can help me answer later. Steve,
I'm
if you
still
want.
on the line. I can help.
Okay, so there's a question, Natalie. Have phase 2 with AFLCMC sponsor. Could you do another direct to phase 2 with another USAF sponsor?
Okay, so from what I'm understanding from this question here, Steve, you already have a phase 2 with the AFL-CMC, and you're asking if we can get another phase 2 with another U.S. Air Force sponsor? Yes, of course. If we have someone from the U.S. Air Force that's willing to sponsor our technology in a AFWERX Tracks to phase 2, then absolutely we would want to get that, and that's a possibility. There's also a question here that just kind of caught my eye from Harrison here. COVID-19 disinfection of space is a general problem. We're working on a flexible UVC plug-and-play solution for our service robot. How would we approach it? So Harrison, this would be an absolutely great topic for the open topic. So if we didn't find something very specific, which like you said, this is very related to COVID-19, and you have a very specific technology, you know, this is absolutely something where I'm actually working with a client that they're doing, you know, they're not doing exactly this, but something similar per se. And we were actually able to find that Air Force stakeholder. So, you know, that would be the work that we would do on this end.
Awesome. Awesome. Harrison, please get in touch with me. Maybe you'll work with Natalie after all. But I also wanted to kind of mention here, I know it's on the topic at hand. The Department of Homeland Security has SVIP program has a great opportunity for disinfecting services and at DHS facilities and on and on. So get in touch with me, Harrison, so we can hopefully have a conversation. Let's see. Since you are based in Israel, do you support other country grants like Israel's? Yeah. So Harrison, yeah, we have companies within the Free Mind group that deal with Israeli companies specifically. So if you are an Israeli company, please reach out to me. I can put you in touch with our sister company. Let's see. Since you're listening. So if you're is your question if we work with Israeli companies? Definitely. So any foreign company we will work with. So Israeli companies are eligible for broad agency announcements. I would say about 1/3 of our clients are BA eligible only clients. So again, these are companies that have over 500 employees or are foreign based. So I hope that answered your question. Questions are disappearing from here. I guess that means they're logging on.
I'm answering them as you're speaking. I'm just typing to them.
Oh,
to make sure that everyone gets responded to.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much. Let's see. Yep. I think that is all. Michael. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. Now, I think there's a chat. Yeah, and the chat was all answered. What is the standard? What is the standard procedure if I'm being? No. So Judy, thank you for that question. Judy Jones asked if we only do work for AFWERX grants. That is not true at all. So again, we use a multi-submission strategy. We literally try to leave no stone unturned. We try our best to really go after every funding opportunity that it is we can go after. So no, not just AFWERX. Pretty much every funding opportunity under the sun that we can go after, we're going to go after. It's in our interest and obviously in yours as well. So do you only do work? Sorry, go ahead.
Madi just asked if the 20.3 was posted. Yeah, it was posted yesterday evening. We are only seeing several topics. I think about almost 60 topics were posted. The special topics were already posted. So definitely, either reach out to us or check on their submission portal, and you can go ahead and see the topics that were posted. But I just wanted to be super clear that this SBIR cycle is one of a kind because there's an open topic for direct to phase 2. Usually direct to phase 2 are extremely specific for a very specific need, a very specific use case, and a very specific topic. But right now they're open topics. So they want to hear from industry. They want to hear from you guys how you think your technology could, you know, better airmen and better the Air Force and can be integrated into Air Force bases and units. So this is not often. This is very rare. So absolutely, if you guys are interested in SBIRs and if you think that you have an extremely relevant technology with a great use case for the Air Force, then this is the time.
Natalie, I think there's one question for you. So someone asked, first of all, if we guarantee an MOU. I already know the answer. I'd just like to hear you answer it. And also they want to know how do we sort the BAA for topics, the broad agency announcement for topics?
Okay, so I think I actually responded to that question in text, but of course we can't guarantee anything. I don't like the word guarantee generally because it's not like a real word. I mean, nobody can guarantee anything.
Right.
But I just wanted to be super clear that it's in our mutual interest, okay, especially mine, because I would have to write that phase 1 and then consult you through the whole process of the actual phase 1 project, and then also I'd have to write that phase 2. So if I can just skip all of that and go directly to a phase 2, you know, via that MOU, then of course I would love to do that also for my sake and also for my client's sake. So absolutely, we know how to get MOUs and we do our absolute best to consult our companies and our clients on getting those MOUs, but we can't of course guarantee anything because it's just not realistic to do that.
Okay, I didn't see anything else. Rick asks where the topics are posted. Rick, the DoD 20.3 topics, outside of the PDF that we have, Natalie, is there somewhere they can just Google the DoD 20.3 topics?
No, don't Google it. So the DoD, so it's this is another thing. It's a little bit difficult to navigate through these submission portals.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but if you could just send them the DoD submission portal, the link on their submission portal. I think it's like it's sbirsttr.mil or something like that. If it's on my computer, I could tell you. Yeah, DoD sbirsttr.mil. So on that page, if you click their homepage, you'll see a button that says topics. Just go ahead and click that button and then you'll get all the information that you need. Again, they're probably going to be coming out with a lot more topics throughout the week. And again, every single solicitation has its different criteria. So you want to make sure that you understand it and read it thoroughly. That's part of the work that we do on our team. We stay up all night and all day, understanding every single little nick and knack in these solicitations so that we won't get technically rejected and fall, you know, on things like writing the wrong font size. You know, that's like you put all this effort in and you get disqualified because you put 12-point font instead of 10-point font. So you really want to read it front and back, you guys. But the topics are there on the submission portal.
Okay. Let me see if we have any other questions that we can answer off the cuff. I know I have a call I have to get on in a minute, but I don't want to cut this webinar short. Let me see how many. Yep, we saw 45 people. Let me see if there's any questions. Do we still use the term COTS? I'm not sure what that term is, Harrison.
Commercial off the shelf. Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay, so we do. Madi, he sends his email information. Madi, sure, I'll go ahead and send you an email and we'll set up a call. And I see Gerald, thank you for going ahead and actually dictating the link for Natalie. Is there any other questions that we're missing? Judy asked about medical devices. So there are certain medical devices we will work with, and there are certain medical device or medical related technologies that we won't work with. It depends. Judy, if you want to contact me, I can either divert you towards our sister company, the Fremont Group, or the Fremont Consultancy, or we can continue the conversation if you're relevant to us. So Judy, feel free to email me and I'll have a better answer on that once we have a more in-depth conversation. Let's see.
Ari, you're going to be late to your call.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, all right, guys, I appreciate everyone staying for so long. 42 of you for over an hour. That's amazing. I hope it was productive and helpful. I'm going to go ahead and get to my call. Again, any questions you guys have that we weren't able to answer or that come up on later, come up in your mind later, please feel free to email me. You're going to get this recording of this webinar in an email. And so we'll be in touch. Natalie, you have a great night. Everyone have a great night and take care.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care.